All right, you guys, welcome. Denny Grimes coming to you from Southwest Florida on another script and role play class. Thanks for being with us. Right now, we're having a little bit of a thunderstorm here in Southwest Florida with some lightning, so I trust we'll be okay. I've got a dedicated line. However, if you lose me, might be just the power went out for a few minutes. So, how's your market? I guess you're probably doing pretty good. Today, I'm going to cover a couple of different points, and of course, we'll have some requests from the crowd. We have Sonny Hammermeister here, my director of growth, that's helping me co-host this, watching the chat, so don't be shy. This is the first time we've done this from webinar to meeting, and the reason we're doing that is because we want you to be involved. Turn your cameras on, feel free to raise your hand, have a comment. As we've mentioned before, when Gary Keller has his meeting, for example, with his top agents, top 100, he requires cameras to be on. When we have our role play each and every morning, we require the cameras to be on because you're more engaged at that. So unless you're out fly fishing or maybe in a tanning bed or something like that, put your cameras on. We want to see you. We want to interact. So a couple things I'm going to share with you. Let me come over here to my slideshow really quick. Last week, if you were on the call last week, I shared what I learned on a listing appointment, right? And so what's interesting is I've got what they call a 7th level team in Keller Williams, which means I don't go on production much. My agents do that, and I just mentor the agents and help and that type of thing. So I had to fill in for someone, went on my first listing appointment probably in a couple of years, and I was sharing with you what went on, how I eventually got the listing. Now it's 1 week into it. And so just to recant what happened is this. Everywhere I go, every agent I talk to, every market center that calls me and say, Denny, come and talk to our agents. The #1 request is, we're starving for listings. How can you help us get more listings, right? So I'm going to share some things with you. I think some agents are maybe making some mistakes that would help them get some listings. #1, my point I made last week was that agents get a little bit of stinking thinking because they get into the CMA rut. So Jeff, you're with us, right? Jeff?
Yes, sir.
All right. So Jeff's also co-hosting. He's an agent up in the Washington, D.C. area. And I happened to ask him about something. I was, in my home workout area in the gym, I've got that pink two-pound dumbbell and I'm doing like reps, I'm really getting pumped up like Arnold. And they had a news report on, they actually was part of a YouTube video where someone was talking about how crazy your market is there in DC. So Jeff, we just happened to talk about here a little bit ago where a bank put something on the market for $250,000 roughly. And it went on to say that they had 88 offers and it sold wildly over asking price. It was like 70 or 80%. So you were familiar with that story, right?
Yeah, I was. I ran across I think the same YouTube video like a week ago when I was watching real estate videos. And
it's obviously we know it's crazy. No, my wife coaches and has clients around the country, even in Canada. We're seeing some markets soften, particularly in states that are a little bit more closed. However, we're kind of going nuts. So the point is, you may not be getting 80 offers on a listing. However, here's the danger. Many agents are losing listings with potential sellers because they've got CMA-itis. And so if you've been on my calls for any length of time, one thing I want you to write down and understand is that in any market, particularly a rational market or an irrational market where we are right now, we never can predict what that's going to sell for. The only thing we know is past information and the data points, which we don't call comps with our sellers. We call it past sales. Another little nugget worth writing down is I've discovered great agents will share with their clients what they don't know. However, don't tell them what you don't know. They will share with them what they know. They won't say what they don't know. And the thing we know for sure is what the past sales were. And the next data point in this particular market is the next one up. So let me share with you what happened in the last week. And just real quick, and I don't want to get too bogged down in details because I know it's going to be hard to read. This was a printout of past sales. #1, there was nothing for sale. in that particular neighborhood. Here's the square footage. I was in this range here where you see the listing price somewhere between 225 and actually there's one at 240, right? No active listings. Then when you look at it across the board here with a 1,300 square foot, there were only 2 sales, 204, 220. So with that information, my question would happen to be is when you look at our pricing chart, the green line, as you know, is basically, what's the green line there, Jeff? Do you remember?
Which one is green?
Oh, right here. It probably, I don't know if it shows up. So I don't know how to zoom in. It's hard to see on the screen, maybe. The green line is going to be your top market value. And so, Jeff, I'm just going to role play with you as a potential seller here just for a second. Can you see the green line? I can't tell what you see or not.
I can tell there's a line there, yeah, where it says top market price. And hey, FYI, just tips for everybody on the call. If you have your view on speaker versus gallery, you'll be able to see Denny's chart a little better.
Yes, and if I happen to blow up the picture that big, and think, man, you know, just remember, camera puts on 5 pounds. Okay, so put that in. So take a look at that. Blow that up in full screen because this is a listing presentation. And so, Jeff, you're the potential seller, and I'm just going to pretend like you're the seller I met with, right? So I don't know where the top market value is. However, if my question to you is, if we don't know where it is, we have the opportunity to go to point A somewhere above where we think it is, or we can be at point B below it and maybe have multiple offers or maybe leave money on the table. Where would you like to be, Jeff?
Well, I mean, obviously I'd like to get the A price, but I also don't want it to sit on the market too long. What's going to get me the most money in the quickest amount of time, in your opinion?
My seller said that he's moving out. It's going to be vacant. He's not living there. In fact, he had a U-Haul. He's going back to Atlanta, and he was saying, look, I don't want it to sit on the market. So let me ask you, Jeff, okay, you don't want it to sit on the market. Ideally, how soon would you like your place sold?
I mean, I'd like to have it sold in the next couple of weeks and be able to close, you know, as soon as possible in 30 to 45 days in an ideal world.
Okay, so I get that. So let me ask you this. And I showed you the past sales, and he actually was interviewing 3 agents. I was number 2 in the pecking order of 3. So let me ask you, Jeff, this: if it meant you could put maybe an extra $10,000 or $20,000 in your pocket, would it be okay if, going back to the graph here, would it be okay if we maybe attempted to stretch the market up a little bit, even if it took you an extra week to sell?
Oh, an extra week, sure.
Awesome. So what we're doing then what I wanted to do then, forget about CMAs, because I'm going to show you the CMAs. I'm going to show you the past sales data point. I know it's a little hard to read. There was a 212, 240, then one was actually pending, hadn't closed yet, which had 3 bedrooms, had more square footage, and it was on the lake, had a superior location. So now clearly, and I found this out afterwards, the other 2 agents were looking at the 212, 240, and they were stretching it up to 250. I suggested, again, when it comes to pricing, going back to this slide, think price point. Now, I know that some people think in terms of the Walmart pricing, $299, $999, or something like that. However, and I know there's not many markets, and certainly, Jeff, you don't have markets in the 200 with indoor plumbing. So this was a 2-bedroom villa, 1,300 square feet. Highest sale over there was $269 with a 3-bedroom and with it on the water. Now, here are the factors, you guys, that I want you to think about when you're interviewing. Gary says to be the local economist of choice. So 2 bits of information I happen to know. Number 1, I just told you about it, was the number of homes on the market for sale. 0. In that neighborhood, there were 0 homes for sale. So it's kind of like, Jeff, would you say kind of a seller's market over there, right?
It sounds like it. Yeah. If there's nothing available, I would say we're in the driver's seat.
There you go. The other thing from a macro market standpoint, and I saw the seller's eyes light up when I made this statement. I asked him the question, you know, I'm kind of like into questions. We've got in this farm area in which we work, my team works. I asked the question, there's about 5,000 homes built here. I asked the seller who's lived here for the last 4 or 5 years, take a guess, just a wild guess, how many homes are for sale. Now, I know that could have gone either way. It's one of those questions like, like, how old do you think I am? I mean, you're wanting them to say 25, right? But however, if they answer 75, then the question kind of backfired. So what he said was, I don't know, maybe 100. I said there's 35 homes for sale and only one home for sale under 300,000. Again, the point here is this: think price point. So what I suggested, when you go back to the graph here, point A or point B, I'll show you this one with the comparables. The price points, in my opinion, in that price range would be 200, 225, 250, 275, and 300. So Jeff, let me ask you, 250, 275, and 300, if you had those three price points to choose from, which one do you think makes the most sense if we want to see if we can't get to point A?
Well, I think 250 would get it done quickly and maybe some multiple offer, some competition on, but I think 275 would be an ideal number that I'd like to. I think 300 would just be stretching it too much based on the fact I'm not on the lake.
Now, we didn't rehearse this. However, the question like that is pretty logical and intuitive. Generally, it's the middle number. Now, what's interesting, he said he would be happy with 250. So what do you do with a seller that you're talking to that said, well, I paid 200 for it 5 years ago. I put some money into it. If I got anything north of 235, I'd be happy. So what's interesting is, what will you do as an agent? Would you think 250 would be enough? He would have listed it for 250 with me. I said, I said, I think we have the opportunity now to stretch the market up. And Jeff, he said exactly that. He said, well, 300 sounds crazy. 275 sounds crazy to me, but however, if I could put some extra money in my pocket, I'd do it. So that's kind of where we were.
Denny, I got a question for you in that scenario.
Okay.
So looking at, not so much me as the agent, but as a consumer, and maybe the agent as well. 265 was 3-bedroom on the lake.
Yep.
Thinking about what other agents would do, my guess is they would say you need to be at 250 because you're not on the lake and you don't have the 3rd bedroom.
That's right.
And 250 would be all the money, and it looks like the other agents kind of price based on that. But in this scenario where nothing else is available, my question to you is it possible if we had priced it at 250, then the buyer's agents would look at the comps and say, well, the one that sold higher than that was and the potential buyers would be looking at the comps, say the one that sold for the highest price was 265, but it was a 3-bedroom on the lake. This one's not. So I think 250 is probably a fair offer. Could it possibly work the opposite way, or instead of people bidding up, they look at what they're like, well, we're already over anything else that's 2-bedroom, not on the lake. So by asking for the 275, you got the 25 grand extra. But if you had listed it at 250, is it possible in your micro market that people would have been like, well, I'm not going to go much higher than that because 265 was on the lake?
Well, that's a great question. In fact, people, if you want to speak up or add something into the chat, I listed it at 275. And what Jeff's saying is probably right. From a typical CMA mindset, where you do your pluses and minuses, 3-bedroom versus 2-bedroom on the lake or whatever, clearly conventional wisdom, conventional thinking of what we do, a 250 price point would have been the price point probably to place that home. I wonder, you can put in there, type in there, how many of you would have listed at 250 thinking, well, maybe that would be rational, maybe it'd be bid up, versus 275. No right or wrong. I'm just kind of curious where you would have probably taken that listing. So if you want to make a comment in the chat, somebody's watching that, just put in your number, and I'm just kind of curious what you have to say. Well, let's see what the consensus is of the group.
Yeah, and the third part of that was, do you think that maybe people would have looked at it and said, at 250, I wouldn't really want to go over 265 because it's not a 3-bedroom on the lake, and you would have never gotten close to 275 because of that 265 outlier. But because you asked for it and there was nothing else on the market you got, I'm wondering if people's perception would have been different if it was priced at 250. Like going above 265 would have been a real stretch.
I think in a rational market, it would have been, that would have been, this is irrational. So I listened to 275. I don't know if anyone's typed anything in the chat. I don't see anything yet. So anyway.
We got 250 is what I might have said from Lori.
Thank you, Lori. Anybody else?
Didn't you say that other property was pending at 265?
Yeah, and that's what it actually sold for, though.
Oh, it is what it's sold for. Okay,
Yeah,
because when they're just pending, you don't know. It could have gone over asking as well.
Yes, you're right.
That's a good point.
Yep. It closed at 265. Now that was a pending one, nothing over there for sale. 275 that was on. We launched it about, let's see, today is Tuesday. I think we launched it on Thursday or Friday. We had a launch open house. By the way, here's a little thing that I've learned. Many times sellers have a negative reaction to an open house. Like we asked you, hey, how do you feel about open houses? We hate them, blah, blah, blah. However, we're not using the term open house. We're calling it part of our standard procedure. Our launch procedure is this. We're going to have a pre-launch preview. Now, they'll say, well, what's that? Well, this is the opportunity that you're going to have neighbors. You're going to have a lot of people that will be very curious that want to see it. So we're going to, before we launch it, we're going to kind of flush that traffic in and let them look at your home, help spread the word. Now again, I don't know. I'm not saying it'll change every seller's mind. However, many sellers have already got their mind made up. No open houses. No worry. We don't do an open house. We just do a pre-launch preview. So you might want to write that down. That might be, if they know it's part of the standard package, they may allow you to do that for a couple of hours. So we listed it. We had some showings. We had about 8 or 9 showings. And it's Tuesday. On Sunday, I'm talking to my daughter, who's really the co-agent on this. We had 2 offers. Anyone want to take a wild guess what the offers were? Type it in, or you can, if you're mute, just kind of let us know.
We have a couple more that came in. It says they're typing, so it's going away. If the buyer stated the price, I would have stated, I'm not scared to be aggressive in today's market and leave it up to them. Either it be 250 or 275. Another person said 250, Desiree 300, another 285.
Wow, Desiree 300. So far, you're winning the bid. Okay. So anyone want to guess? Oh, was the 300 the list price or what you thought the offer came in at, Desiree?
The offer that came in.
Hey, yeah. So, hey, good to see you the other night. Thanks for coming over to the party. No, we had 2 offers. The first offer came in at 275, very strong down payment, blah, blah, blah. And the other offer came in at 265. Now, Jeff, the question I think, and I don't know how to answer this, however, is it possible we could lose a listing by basing our numbers strictly on the way the real estate market used to work, and basically CMA, 2-bedroom versus 3-bedroom, lake versus non-lake, and we could lose that listing? Is that conceivable, Jeff?
That is conceivable. If you were looking at that lower price point and somebody else and the seller had in their mind that the prices are skyrocketing, why would I want to go low? I feel like you could, I feel like I lost my first listing appointment before the pandemic in that same scenario where my seller had an expectation and I was trying to convince her to be more realistic. That used to be the conversations, like right out of Bold and other training, is you need to get your seller to be realistic. And in this market, I think it really is the opposite. I think people are expecting that they can get a lot more for their home, and that's what we're telling them. And so I think there is some potential to lose out if you're trying to get someone to be more realistic in the traditional sense on where they list it.
Well, I used to get wildly upset with agents that would go and buy a listing. And what I mean by that, they'd go give the seller some sort of wild price that was not supported by past sales. That is a normal market scenario. So right now we're not in a normal market. Everyone would kind of agree with that. So what I am saying is that I believe the difference between past sales and what the market will bear today, particularly when you look at the macro market and there's only one house for sale under a certain price point. So one house for sale under 300, and there's nothing available in that specific neighborhood. The question really is, Jeff, you're the seller. Listen, if we can stretch this up, you could put some more money in your pocket. You know, would it be worth an extra week or two to be on the market?
If it's only a week or two, absolutely.
And the reason you have to quantify that, because, you know, I used to ask the question all the time, what's more important to you, time or money? You know, selling your house super fast or putting more money in your pocket. So Jeff, we've not rehearsed that. So what would be your answer?
You know, I mean, I'm on a limited time frame, so I want to get the most amount of money I can within my time frame.
If you ask that question without quantifying the time frame, and I can promise you, in the seller's mind, they're thinking, and I've heard him say this over and over again, well, I don't want to be on the market 6 months or a year. You almost got to laugh, right? No, I'm saying, Jeff, if you could put some more money in your pocket and you're only on the market a week or two more, would that be an issue? 99 times out of 100, the seller's going to say no. So anyway, talking about getting the listing in this particular case, it hasn't closed yet. However, and I know you may be thinking about an appraisal. There is a financing contingency. This buyer is putting down 40%. Most likely, I didn't even know this. My daughter told me that at 40%, most likely the lender is going to waive appraisal. So there won't be an issue. And probably even if the appraisal comes in low, which I'm sure it will, the buyer's got enough money in the transaction that won't be an issue. If you make it to the table and you're talking to a listing, don't lose the listing because of CMA-itis, okay? So I'm going to stop. Jeff, any comments, or if you have a comment or a question, you want to build on that before we go to the next point, pipe in.
Yeah, I would just like to say, Denny, just open it up if there's anybody who's been in that particular scenario here in the last few weeks that has any feedback on that exact scenario. Anyone? Bueller?
Yeah, I've got a seller that's unrealistic in their expectations. The CMA say 550, they want 650. They say they have the location and the sunset view, and there's no other sunset views on the market.
Right, and where are you, Greg?
Pasco County.
Pasco? Okay. Hey, Jeff, what do you think?
In Hernando that I'm talking to them.
This might be a good role play, Jeff. Do you mind if I role play with you, Greg?
Okay.
Can everyone hear him okay?
Yeah, I think we can hear okay.
Yeah.
Great. Greg, you're the seller, right?
Okay.
Now I want you to be that seller.
They're pretty crazy, but okay.
I've done crazy before. Okay, so let me ask you, so Greg, how long have we been on the market now?
Haven't been on the market at all.
It's not for sale?
No, it's not been for sale. We're thinking about selling because my wife wants to be closer to her family in Palm Harbor, and I basically don't want to sell. I'm the husband, so the motivation is very, very different.
Okay, so let me ask you then, how are you guys going to work that issue out?
They basically have been canceling my appointments when I make them, and it's really not being worked out. She's now showing him properties that he would like to, that she's interested in. And they don't really have the funds because they're cash really once they sell. So I'm trying to angle that, hey, you know, we need to submit an offer with proof of funds. And right now you don't have the funds because your funds are in your current home. You know, and they won't sign the listing agreement. They won't move forward to list the house. They keep changing that. He keeps changing his mind. He
Okay,
wants
so
a unicorn property.
all right, so now, let me just give you my blink, and we'll take just 3 or 4 minutes to do this. I'm not really sure that you have total clarity over what the issue is. It sounds kind of multifaceted. Number one, they're looking for a unicorn property. Number two, she wants to sell. He doesn't want to sell. It sounds like you've got a complex issue there. So this is how I would, when you have that kind of a scenario, they're both sitting there. So let me ask you, I'm going to go right to you, Greg. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 meaning you really don't want to sell, 10 meaning basically you're ready to go today. Where are you in that scale?
Well, they want to go see a property this afternoon.
That wasn't the question. Be in role play with me, please.
Oh, okay. Be in role play. Okay. So I would say a 6.
You're a 6. And if the wife was sitting there, what would she be?
Oh, she'd be a 10.
Okay, so I'm going to notice I'm not going to work on the wife, and it's awesome if they're together and they hear this because who knows what they're talking about. So let me ask you, Greg, what would have to happen to get from a 6 to a 10 for you?
I'd have to get the price that I want, and I want a lot.
Okay, you want to get your price. What else would have to happen to get you to a 10?
We'd have to find a property and not pay too much for it.
Okay, what else?
It would have to be a really unique piece of property on Lake Tarpon.
Okay, I'm getting like, okay, my eyes are starting to glass over here. That's 3. We're going to do a 4-minute role play. Anything else? No, please say no. Please say no. Good, because I don't have much time. All right, so what's the number on your house that will make you move?
I think we can get 650, but if you know, I can also sell the boat with it. I need another 15,000 for that.
Okay, so if I understand you said a couple of different things. You're looking for the right property. However, would you not agree? Everything starts with money in your pocket, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Can you buy a house where you're going without selling your house?
No, we can't.
Okay, so let me ask you, do you think the market's working in your favor as a seller right now or working against you?
Oh, it's working in my favor. There's no other property that's like mine.
So you're right. In this particular market, you're going to put more money in your pocket than in any other time in human history. Do you see any advantage of taking advantage of that before the market shifts?
We do. We do think that we would want to take advantage of that.
So if
But
we were to put
I want to get 650.
I got it. So if we were to put your home on the market at 650 a day, are you prepared to move forward?
Yeah, we are. But I only sign in person, so you'd have to come and meet with me for that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, let's just not get in the weeds here. However, I just closed you on the listing. How many people would take the listing? Speak up or put it in the chat. You take the listing, don't take the listing, refer the seller out, hang up on them. Which one would you do?
I would take it. Actually, I just had one just like that. It was, they wanted 150 over what the comp stated. I said, let's do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, who else? Who's going to take it? Who's going to pass? There should be a
Samantha
game.
said take it. Jeff said I would. Sherry said take it. Lori, she would
We've
take
all been to
it.
your training, Denny.
Letitia
we're
says I
present.
will. David says take it. Take it.
Take it.
We got lots of takes it.
Well,
I
good for
agree,
you.
because I wanted to take it too, and I agree. And then I made the appointment to come and them sign, and they said, we need a few days to think about it.
Yeah, well, maybe they do, and maybe it's another conversation. However,
Okay.
when you get down to the fact of having a seller that has unrealistic expectation, have not those types of sellers existed since day one? Yes. However, this market is delivering some unbelievable numbers. And as you know, in fact, you will be, once I take the listing at 650, once I take it at 650, there's always one question I ask Ness. There's always one more question I ask after I knuckle bump, shake hands. I'm going to list your home at 650 because that's a great number for you. You win, I win. I'm on your team. Let's go. Woo. What would be my next question? I always ask this question. Does anybody remember it?
If it doesn't sell, are you willing to lower it? Forgive me, I came in late. I was on the phone.
It's very similar to that.
Reposition.
Very similar. I say, what will you do if the market says no to that?
Okay.
And you know what the issue is? In that particular case, experience is teaching me. Even if he says, I ain't taking a penny less, I don't care. You know what? In this particular market, he might get enticed by a number. Number two, generally speaking, now I'm not being sexist here. Generally speaking, the wife has a lot of influence over what happens. Yes or no?
Yes.
And one more thing is going to be in their favor, you guys. Once you start down that road of selling and the possibilities open up, do you think maybe because he may get pressure from his family and now he's starting to look around thinking, what if? He'll start spotting properties where they're moving to. You're going to have a lot of momentum going in your direction. Bottom line, Jeff, is this. Never walk away from a listing in this market. What's your thoughts on that, Jeff?
100% concur. So I just had just an agent in our market that he said the house was priced maybe a little low. And there were 55 offers, and it was, it went for 150 grand, 200. We're hearing stories over and over again of single families going for anywhere from 100 to 200 over list price. So you got to imagine that if you had listed it 100 grand higher, there is the potential that somebody would have still offered on that house and bought it, and it's being proven over and over again, especially in our, 700 up price point. We're seeing that in the Washington market over and over again.
I got a question about that. And forgive me, again, I was on the phone with a client. Because I was having this conversation with someone before about if we do price it, say 100,000 over asking, the people that are going to be looking for the homes that are say 500,000, even if we park it at 600,000, the people that are looking between 5 and 6 aren't going to see it, so they're not going to know to find it to then bid 100,000 over. That is did we talk about that? I don't know. Or am I totally like in left field?
Well, that's an interesting question. I never really thought about that, Samantha. So if they're in the 5 to 6, they would be looking in what range? What are they looking in?
Like 475 to 550 would be common townhouse in our area.
Okay, and so all right, awesome. So if they're between 475 and 500 or 550, most likely, what will be the challenge with those properties?
There's a lot of buyers that qualify, and there's limited amount of them.
And those were properties in a normal market would be 300 to 400 or whatever. So they're now going up higher. So I think intuitively the buyers would know, and they'd probably be smaller, less desirable, maybe need some work. So they realize, I don't want this. Then the agent, you're going to suggest, well, then what we have to do is go further from the Metroplex, got to move out to a further out where you have to drive more, or we'll have to up our price range. Does that make sense, Samantha?
So I think my, yes, but I putting myself in the buyer's shoes, say I have $600,000 to spend. I know I can't look in the $600,000 mark because I know I'm going to have to spend an extra $100,000. So instead of looking for the homes that might be $100,000 overpriced, I'm now looking in the 450 to or the $400,000 to $500,000 range because I know I'm going to have to add another 100,000. So if it's listed, if it's priced too high because they're expecting higher bids, I'm not going to see it anyway because I'm only looking here because I know that I'm going to have to add that 100,000 anyway. Does that make sense? Is that?
It makes total sense. Although your buyers can only do what they can do. However, and I know it's not really fun necessarily for the buyers. However, there are going to be buyers out there competing against that house and be willing to go above that number. Your buyers are not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
They're going to have to go and bid on a house at 300,000 to get up to 400 or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Because if they have 600 to spend, they're going to shop for 500 because they know they're going to have to add that 100,000. That's kind of what I mean. Like they're going to shop in lower prices because they know they're going to have to spend.
So there's another side to that conversation that I'm seeing. So I would say that's not always the case because typically we're setting up a search up to their maximum. And we've had the conversations that keep in mind, if you see something priced at $599 and it's priced really well and it's fully renovated, it's probably going to go for a lot more than that. However, you are finding houses maybe in that $550 to $600 price point that aren't quite as desired, so I think you always want to give them all the potential houses, at least from a buyer agent perspective, so they're not missing out on a potential opportunity. And if it's listed at 580, you're right, they're probably not going to be looking at it. But if it's at the high end of the market, potentially it's not going to bid way over that. So at least it popped up on their radar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess keep the search from, even if we're only going to buy in the 4 to 5, keep the search up until 6 just to see kind of what's in
if
there.
they qualify for 6 and they're willing to spend 6.
Yeah, like assuming that, yeah. I mean, in fact, the one I have now, they're qualified for 7, and we kept putting in offers for houses that were like 600, and so that we bid for like 625, 650, and we weren't getting them. So because I wasn't looking up into, we were only looking at between 5 and like 615 because we knew we were going to have to put that extra money down. So we weren't going to bother looking at a 580 or a 680 because, why? We weren't going to get it. So we weren't like putting our eyes there.
So Denny, would you say it's kind of the opposite, like you were talking about in this market, like you could list higher because we really can't predict what it's going to sell for? Could it work the same way with a buyer? Like we can't always predict that you're going to have to. I was sharing with Denny earlier today. I had a house that I felt like it was overpriced, and we got it for 20 grand under list price last month in this crazy market because it didn't get any offers the first week because it was priced too high. Mm-hmm. But the good thing is we were looking at that price point, so we knew, and then she was able to get it for less and save the money for the renovate because it needed some renovations. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you really don't know. I mean, you could miss out on an opportunity because you're not looking in that higher price point.
Well, it's kind of sad to think, or interesting to think would be a better way of putting it, that if a house is basically on the market a week, people are wondering what's wrong with it, right?
Yeah, right.
However, the interesting thing that on pricing and activity, and here's my blink on this, and you guys can share your idea. Going back to the villa at 275, we've had 2 offers in 4 or 5 days, 8 or 10 showings. Now, I'm not saying that that's like the barn's on fire type thing, which is good, because I think if we would have priced it maybe at 250 or whatever, we'd have probably had more showings and more offers. I'm not really sure though, and there's no way to really prove this. It'd be kind of interesting if this fell through. Then I'm going to put it back on the market at 250 and see if it's bid up to the 275. You see, when you go from when this other house that we started the call with in Washington area had 88 offers, you severely underpriced the home. I guess the best thing when we talk about the 3 outcomes, what would 3 outcomes: low to no showings, which means you're way too high; showings, no offers, which means you're a little bit too high. Either reposition or wait for the market to move up to it. And outcome number 3, it sells. If you wanted a lot of activity, why don't you price everything at $1 or $100 for that matter and watch it get bid up? I think real estate agents make ourselves crazy by underpricing. The interesting thing about the villa, we took it at 275, which we thought was uber aggressive for the marketplace. We had outcome 2, we had showings, and then we had 2 offers come in, 1 at full price. If we'd have priced it at 250, we probably had 3 times the showings. I don't know if 3 times the offers. I don't know. However, if you find yourself getting a lot of too many offers, quit pricing it so low. Why don't you price it where you don't have to go through so much craziness? For example, we have another home in our area here. It's going to, and the market's going up. These sellers listed because of conversations we had. Again, they are a shadow seller. They wanted to be on the market, and they just when I asked them the question, listen, the market's white hot. What would you do if you could put more money in your pocket right now than you ever thought possible? Would that be worth a 15-minute conversation? We got the listing, and here's what's happening. I mean, they're in $1 million price range roughly. And so we've had now about 8 or 10 showings, activities there. We had somebody close to making an offer yet, however, have not made an offer. It's about maybe a week on the market. That's when you might be at the ouchie point. You might be at the point where you're probably stretching it. You're stretching it. Now, again, one could say, well, it's overpriced, and now after the second week on the market, you're going to lose it. It'll lose its luster, and you'll get less activity. I'll keep you posted on that. I would personally rather, and it helps get the listing, to suggest, hey, look, let's see if we can stretch the market up that appeals to most sellers' sense of greed and return versus pricing it low and watching it get bid up. Two different philosophies. So anyway, great question on that. I want to share one thing with you real quick. And then Jeff shared something with me about how to win in the trenches that I thought was really pretty good. We had a conversation before the call. Last week, I gave you the painter scenario, right? You're talking to a for sale by owner. This was the script of the week. Jeff, hey, listen, you're the buy owner.
You froze up, Denny.
I think you cut out, Denny. We can't hear you. Oh, frozen. Just frozen. Just kidding.
Frozen, the musical starring Denny Grimes.
This makes me think of an old SNL skit, like, talk amongst yourselves, I'll give you a topic. The chickpea is neither a chick nor a pea. Discuss.
You did that so well.
Rhode Island is neither a road nor an island. Discuss. That's all I got. That's it.
Hey, what's that background, Rick?
Go, Samantha.
Now I'm logging back in.
What is that, Rick? What's that background?
That's a KW. That's a KW.
Oh, Onward.
Yes. Onward.
Nice. Is that
Hey,
a
back,
virtual-
right. And a green screen too.
Yeah, sorry, you guys, I lost power. So, the painter, Jeff, you're one to sell it yourself, right?
Yes, I do.
So let me ask you, and why do you want to sell it yourself?
I just think houses are selling pretty quickly, and I could get more money if I just do it myself, not have to pay an agent.
Well, you're right. I mean, I understand you don't need me to sell your house. Anyone can give it away. Well, let me ask you, you mentioned more money. How would you like to, would you really like to make more money?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why I want to sell it myself.
I understand. So have you ever, if your house needed painting, would you do it yourself or would you hire a professional painter?
If it's my whole house, I would definitely hire somebody. That's a lot of work.
Right. Okay. So if the painter knocked on your door and said, hey, look, I'm a reputable painter, and I'd like to, your house is so beautiful. I think it'd be a great house for me to do. Would you let me paint your house if I didn't charge you anything? I just do it for free. No strings attached. What would you do?
I would say, yeah. And what's the catch?
No catch. Legit. Check me out. I got references the whole bit. No catch.
You just want to use me as like a showpiece?
Yeah, I just want to. This is paying it forward type day. I'm gonna paint it for free.
You got it. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds amazing.
Well, that would be an amazing thing. Could I, as a painter, even make it better? Let's just assume I'm going to make it better. Now, this painter says to you, totally legit. No sleight of hand trick whatsoever. Not only am I going to paint it for free, Jeff, I'm going to pay you to paint your house. What would you do?
Sign up for that deal.
Awesome. Well, let me ask you this. If I offered you that in real estate, I'm not going to paint your house. I'm going to sell your house because you said you want to make more money, right?
That's right.
And I don't charge you anything. Would you hire me?
Yeah. Well, how does that work?
Well, I can happily explain it to you. In fact, I've got one more for you. If you'll let me work for you, not only don't you have to pay me, I will pay you to let me work for you. Would you let me do it?
Absolutely. Sure.
Would it be worth a 20-minute conversation?
Yes.
So anyway, that was the script we went over last week. I have a new one for you. All right, so I'm coming back to you, Jeff. Okay, so Jeff, you're a potential buyer stepping into the market. A lot of times you guys were not winning with buyers because we're not setting the right expectation. Let me ask you a question. And again, I think I talked a little bit about this last week. My TV spot was on this, you guys, where you've got to prepare them. So Jeff, let me ask you, when you step into this market, the asking price is the starting line, right? Which means most homes are selling more than the asking price. Do you know why that is?
Because there's not many houses for sale and there's a lot more people trying to buy them.
Yeah, that's one way. So I guess the real reason is the market value is greater than the asking price. So as we move forward, let me ask you this question. Are you going to be focused on the market value, what the home is really worth, or are you going to be focused on the asking price?
I mean, I think ultimately it's what it's going to sell for. It's more important.
Well, if you focus on the asking price in a market where the homes are selling greater than the asking price, are you ever going to get a home?
Well, I mean, it sounds like it would be difficult.
Okay. Now here's my script of the week, you guys. You like football?
Yes.
And you ever heard of the Super Bowl?
Absolutely.
And you know, when we've got these major high demand sporting events, they have a ticket price, yes, and it's printed on the ticket, yes?
That's correct.
And then if it's high in demand, if you have tickets, you want to sell them, you can sell them for greater than a ticket price, the face value, right?
That's actually true, and it always frustrates me because I can't figure out why I got to spend so much money to go to something I enjoy.
So imagine you're going to this awesome concert. I would love to go. Shania Twain, right? What a man, I love Shania Twain. So you're going to Shania Twain, and the ticket price is $85 on the front of it, yet they're selling for $150. That's what our market's like. The asking price is the printed price on the ticket. Buyers are willing to pay a premium to get into a sold out concert. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. That's really interesting.
Last question. You're the buyer. What if you said, I'm not going to pay more than $85? What will most likely happen to you?
You will be watching that concert on television at home. You won't be participating.
That's right. Go get the 8-track, baby. So I'm just going to stop there for a second. How many people feel like that is a decent analogy to use with people?
I like
to
that a
help them
lot.
understand the difference between asking price and market value.
I like that a lot. A lot.
It was very good.
I love analogies.
Awesome. Awesome. Rick, what do you think of that?
I thought it was spot on.
Pretty solid.
All right. Well, that's good. Well, I wanted to take a few minutes and share with you what's interesting in a market that we want more sellers. Sometimes what we have, we've got to work with the tools we have around us. And yes, we should be lead generating for sellers and working on our scripts and finding their seven shadow sellers we should be working with. However, what's plentiful, and that's buyers. And it's kind of interesting. I heard a story not long ago, back, I guess, in 1930s or 40s or something like that. The prisoners of Alcatraz, the only food they had was lobsters. And they had lobster dinner there almost every night because that was the protein they had that was available. They got tired of having lobster, right? So every now and then, you know, although we want the sellers and the buyers are plentiful, we're going to have to work and make sure we get the buyers through. And one of the ways to do this, and this is an awesome conversation, is, and I took down some notes because I was talking to Jeff about it, is that how can you make your buyers look good? So Jeff, let's take us back. You said you won a couple of different bids. Really quick, go through the couple of steps that helped you win in an uber competitive market when your offer was basically not even winning because there was another offer in there with an escalation clause. And I think in both instances, the listing agent called you back and said, if you can actually match this, we want to go with you. And it wasn't your sister and it wasn't somebody in your family. What were the steps you followed to make your offer the most attractive, even if it wasn't the right number to begin with?
So the first step to that was my buyers understanding that we need to go in with your highest and best. Knowing there might have been a little bit of room there, but they did not go in with like a lowball offer, which gave us that opportunity. If they had gone in what they originally wanted to offer, like closer to list price, the agents wouldn't have even got back to us. So in the last scenario, we talked about it. And we said, look, you really like the house. You know, if you had to stretch a little bit and had a conversation about, you know, with the buyer about, you know, would you be okay if you lost it for $5,000, like part of your script that you use? And
Right.
they said no. And we bumped up from 10 grand, you know, 15 grand over list price. We ended up going in 20 grand over list price. And then we put a nice package together, which included having a really top rated local lender that a lot of agents have heard of. And everything in the contract, every I was dotted, every T was crossed, every form that broker requires, because I've worked with that brokerage in the past, on, you know, with other listing agents, I knew what forms they require. I made sure everything was included, reached out to the agent ahead of time. Of course, everybody does now, which is getting more challenging because the agents are getting so many phone calls. So, you know, message them, reach out to them, try to find out what the motivation is. Anything that I can do to build some rapport ahead of time before the offer comes in so the agent knows who I am. And then having the love letter from my clients about how much they like the house, how well qualified they are, how this is the perfect house for them, and putting that whole package together. But it all started with, in both cases, not coming in too low. Other offers came in lower and escalated. And I was like, you know, in this market, it's really best not to escalate. It's better to come in with your highest and best offer. As a result, the only thing that put us behind was the escalation of the other offers that were lower, and maybe the agent wasn't as professional, the package wasn't as good. So ultimately, because the only difference in our offer, or the main difference, there could have been other, you know, contingency differences, but price-wise, the main difference was, in both cases, my offers were $5,000 lower than the other two, because the other two had an escalation of $5,000 over the next best offer. So we had come in at a high price point and we were only losing by that escalation. So the all that conversation with the selling agent and with my buyers and putting everything together to come in at a highest and best put us within $5,000. And in both cases, my buyers were like, well, for $5,000, I don't want to lose the house, which kind of goes back to your, you know, your script of, you know, would you be okay losing it over $1,000, or in a, you know, in a $500,000 price point? I think $5,000 is a good number. You know, it's a higher price point.
The interesting thing that I got out of this conversation, guys, is this. Yes, you can't come in $100,000 low just because you have, you know, you spit polished the paper and you're written it in calligraphy, doesn't mean you're going to get the bid. However, this is what I wrote down. We have limited control over the price the buyer offers. Now, again, we worked through that. I've shared that script with you, got a highest and best, yes. However, this is worth writing down. Although we have limited control over what the buyer offers from the price standpoint, it's 100% up to us to increase or make it look like it increases the probability of closing. We've been going through this market long enough right now that we, as trained agents, professional agents, understand not all offers are the same, and we've got to look beyond the price. So he made the call to the agent. He made sure the right forms were in there, kind of like a relocation. They said, these are the things we need. He even made sure the right forms were in there that may not even have been specified. And yeah, talking to the other agent's really good. I think he has a buyer letter and all this other stuff. He's got all his I's dotted, T's crossed. You guys that receive multiple offers, how many times do you get offers that look like junk with no blanks filled in? It's a mess. So I think that's a real aha for me, because I mean, I'm not writing offers right now, but however, when I did, I don't like that level of detail. How many people will raise their hand and say, oh, I love that level of detail? No, we're running and gunning, right? And we get sloppy. And Jeff just won his last 2 bids. Yes, he had buyers that were competitive number-wise, but the agent came back to him and said, listen, we'll go with you if you match this. So
3 in a row, Denny.
I'm sorry?
3 in a row in the last 30 days. Close.
Hat trick. Way to go. Any comments on that, you guys? I think that give him like a thumbs up, because we should slow down a little bit, because you know what? We want to get the buyer through so we can go on to another one. There's a difference between writing up 5 offers for one buyer that gets one house and selling 5 different buyers one house. There's just a financial difference there.
Rick wants you to read that. Yeah, Rick wants you to read that statement again.
Which one? Oh, this one? We have limited control, Rick, that one? We have limited control over the price. However, it's our job to communicate the probability of its closing. If we can win that, you'll have the listing agent's ear. Because believe me, going down the road and only to start a marathon, run 10 miles, well, sorry, it was a false start, go back, start again, run 5 miles. It's not fun, right? So any comments on that?
Hey, Denny, yeah, just to add on that, because I left that part out of my dissertation that I gave you a few minutes ago, but that's what I discovered was the listing agent, which we sometimes forget. They want to get a house sold and get a commission as much as we representing a buyer want to. So if they believe that it's going to happen easier and quicker with less hassle by working with us instead of working with another offer, they are going to be open to a conversation of working with us to try to get our offer in there, because listing agents often are in the same boat as us. We'd like to get this house sold and move on and go to the next one. And so by them feeling like you're the buyer's agent that's going to make that the easiest, at least they're open to maybe giving you that second option to bump your offer or counter, which some agents aren't getting that.
Awesome. Well, we're at the top of the hour, guys. Sorry I had a little power failure there. Thanks for not hanging up on me. Either come out verbally or type out, what were your ahas today? What did you get out of today's message? Did you get something out of it? Share with us what you got for the rest of the group. Go ahead and unmute.
The painter story. Done. I love an analogy and I'm in 100%.
Which one?
The painter story or the painter analogy?
Awesome. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
What else, you guys? Moses, you've been quiet today.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from everybody too, like the video format better.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes, Denny, that was a great class. I think I have enough to go all day.
Yeah, you guys like the video format?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny when I do these things, it's kind of funny. I'll just share this with you real quick. Yeah, I'll put my jacket on. No, I'm not standing in shorts. I put dress shoes on. I always brush my teeth before I do this. I don't want, my lunch hanging out there. And get this, I can't explain this. I put cologne on. I just feel like it's like I'm in person, right?
Mindset's a thing.
It is. One more aha, you guys. One more aha.
I got one, Danny.
All right.
I think mine is JP.
Yeah,
Presky.
JP.
Hey, the homes are worth more than the actual asking price. I think that's a big part of it right now.
Right. Good job.
I like your concert.
The concert one?
Yeah, because that's so true, being with all the boats, that can't park. All our product is like right off the shore and we can't get it. So if you don't pay the price, you're not going to have what you want.
Love that line. Maybe me and you, Moses, will have to catch a Shania Twain concert when it's in town, right?
Sounds good.
All right, you
Yeah,
guys. Anything else?
I second this concert one.
Yeah, I think it's great. But I came up with that on role play today. So thanks. So Jeff, thank you. Sonny, thank you. You guys, thanks for being on. Have an awesome week. Ride the wave, baby. And in the words
Thank
of
you,
Bill
guys.
Blues, be careful out there.
Thanks, Denny.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
See you guys.